Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's deep dive. I'm an analyst by trade, and for many, many years, and I've used three specific brainstorming methods at work. But the real breakthrough from using these methods didn't actually come into play until I started using them and applying them in my personal life, especially after I started to understand my neural type, which is AuDHD. Now, I'm not saying it lightly, but these methods are actually very, very effective for the way that my brain functions. Okay, we're going to start with mind mapping. We know, at least for me, for a neurodivergent, my brain does not think in bullet points or linearly. So basically, it thinks in basically like network associations and images, and my brain specifically can have super, super racing thoughts that are nonlinear, and that can be very, very overwhelming. And it gets overwhelming very quickly. Now, mind mapping works for me especially well because it actually externalizes my working memory so that it's not just taking up space in my mind. So basically, it takes like a tangled web of thoughts and it actually puts it on like a 2D um, page where I can actually see and visually see in my space, and I'm not tripping over my own thoughts. Now that it reduces the cognitive load, which means juggling multiple things at once. So it really, really, really helps reduce that. Then another part of it that works really well is that I use colors, which are actually engaging, and it kind of helps make the information memorable so that it's easier for me to navigate rather than just reading a plain text, which I would get bored with. Doing this actually gives my thoughts a place to live where they're not going to get lost in the sauce, or I'm not going to instantly forget. Like I walk into a room and be like, why did I come in here? All right. And then the next one that I use is called the Scamper method. And this one, basically, I use it like a structured tool so that I can create, repurpose, or now I say it's structured. And this really works for me because with my mind, I can actually get stuck on one thing and just be there for hours and just get stuck, or it's bouncing around in too many things and I can't just focus. And it kind of provides that framework for me to actually follow so I can follow certain steps in order. So there's a thing called cognitive nudges, and Scamper is actually paired really well with these strategies because basically like the action verbs like combine or reverse are very specific prompts or action verbs that my brain knows how to interpret as an action. The best part about it is that it's structured and it helps me navigate my creativity so that it's not just spiraling out of control. Basically, this method for me, it's like giving my prefrontal cortex a to-do list, a checklist that's in order that makes sense to me that I can easily track. And bonus, it actually helps build schema. Basically, it's building off of the neural pathways that are already there. It helps me build off of those and expand those. And doing this, that's how I was able to repurpose a lot of the tools, methods, and skills that I use in my professional life or my personal life. Now, the last method that I use is called starbursting. And basically, I usually use this for researching and learning. Now, if you know anybody that has AuDHD or ADHD or ASD, um, for AuDHD, myself specifically, I'm both detail oriented and my brain tends to skip. Like I think I read something and I actually didn't read it because my mind is just like, I'm bored, move on to the next thing. If I do starbursting, which breaks down large tasks into small little micro functions, it helps me approach it systematically so that I'm not getting lost in the wave of creativity. So it instead of trying to answer the questions, which can be very draining, I ask questions and I'm like, okay, well, why? And doing that, asking myself or interviewing myself that way actually helps me cognitively connect the question with the answer and what my plan is. Because doing it this way, the question and answer method, it actually activates and engages the function of retrieval and search in the brain. So basically, it helped me prevent myself from hyperfocusing on one detail and missing, crucial pieces of information because I got distracted on something else. So it was very structured and easy for me to follow without creating too much noise in my mind. So the beautiful thing about all of these methods put together, and after I did all the research, is basically all three of these methods are basically tools for cognitive offloading, and guiding neuroplasticity. They're basically like little hacks. They take like some of the things that are strengths for neurodivergent brains, like pattern recognition and big picture thinking, and it makes these novel connections together so that it builds a unique schema. And they all do this by encouraging judgment-free, creative, free-flowing thinking. So that I can build and make these novel connections. So by employing these instead of fighting against my brain or trying to make myself fit into something that wasn't designed for the way that my brain functions, I actually built a system, personalized system that works with my brain and how I function, leveraging, stopping the overwhelm and actually converting that into motivation, which motivation is a resource that I continuously need to create in order to continue moving forward. And these systems really help me cultivate and maintain at least a healthy dose of motivation because that's continuous. It's not an infinite resource, it's finite. All in all, putting all of these together is basically the operating manual that's, my brain didn't come with. I had to come up with it on my own, obviously with the help of, professional research and medical advice and stuff like that. All right, thanks so much for joining. I'm very happy that you were here. If you want to connect, please, you can go ahead and find all my socials in my link tree, and you can also always reach me on my website, www.sblconsultingsolutions.com, or shoot me an email. And don't forget to come back next week for another deep dive episode. But until then, happy planning.